Development Department, and we want to welcome you tonight to our Complete Communities Grant Writing Workshop. We have two grant opportunities we want to talk about tonight. So thank you for being here. Um, we would like for people to introduce themselves. I'll start with city staff that's on the call.
Hi everyone, Benny Chambers with the Plan Development Department.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tanya Sawyer with the Planning Department, lead planner for the Gulfton and Fort Bend Houston Complete Communities area.
Hello, I'm Devontae Caldwell, and I'm also with the Planning and Development Department, and I work with Cashmere Gardens and Near Northside Complete Communities.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lynn Henson, Division Manager. Thank you all for being here.
Any other city staff present? Perfect. We'd like to start with the callers. We'd love for you to introduce yourselves. Let us know what neighborhood that you're representing tonight.
Hello, my name is Jonisha Valaire, and I'm representing East Houston, the East Houston Civic Club.
Hey, East Houston. I'm over here in East Houston too. I live in Eastwood. Love this neighborhood. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Hello, I'm Tremaine Chapman, and I'm somewhat representing Missouri City. But I'm a realtor and I work with Reclaim the Village, and we're really trying to help Houston, especially Southwest, where I'm from.
Thank you for joining us, Tremaine.
You're welcome.
Vernon Johnson, and I'm representing Metropolitan CME Church, Third Ward.
Third Ward is in the house. I'm sorry, you were a little muffled and I didn't catch your name.
Vernon Johnson.
Brendan Johnson. Thank you for being here,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Thank you for the opportunity to engage with you guys.
Of course. We have other callers on the line that'd like to introduce themselves.
How you doing?
I'm Londa Tone.
You're not helping.
And listed a state in which
When you're ready to speak, please unmute and introduce yourself. We have anyone else that would like to introduce themselves?
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Please continue.
Oh, okay. Yes, ma'am. This is Londa Tony, and I'm also with the Metropolitan CME Church as well.
Thank you so much for being here tonight. So we are here with, we represent Complete Communities areas, but we are here to help anyone who is interested in this grant writing workshop. You don't have to be in a complete community to take part in the opportunities that we're going to talk about tonight. Just to give you a refresher, our complete community areas are 10 neighborhoods: Acres Home near Northside, Cashmere Gardens, Second Ward, Magnolia Park, Manchester, Third Ward, Sunnyside, Gulfton, Fort Bend, Houston, and Alief, Westwood. And so tonight we're here to talk about two grants, one of which is the grant offered by LISC Houston. They're a nonprofit organization here, and they help us do a lot of community development work. They have a grant opportunity, and it's not limited to a Complete Communities neighborhood at all. But we are just here representing Complete Communities, but anybody can apply for this grant. So these grants pertain to housing, health, environment, education, economic development, family self-sufficiency, resident leadership, and civic engagement. So they have this grant opportunity, and the strong applications that they would like to see are projects that grow or strengthen the networks of community members, community organizing projects, projects that advance the quality of life, or implementation of strategies that connect neighborhood plans. There are a lot of neighborhoods that have plans. So anything that we can do to connect these plans, to connect the dots, that's a strong application that they would like to see. Other strong applications that they would love to support are projects that include remote engagement or participation if in-person meetings are safe, and social distancing. Some examples of projects LISC Houston has funded in the past have been PPE distributions and making masks, resiliency circles, parades, festivals, block parties, or other types of celebrations, food fairs or health fairs, town halls on a particular topic, a project from a neighborhood plan, an existing neighborhood plan, or they've also funded advocacy efforts such as the Stop I-45 expansion. So how much are we talking about? This is you can get from $500 to $5,000 for this LISC Houston grant. This is a match grant. It's a 2-to-1 match. So you would have to bring 2 and they bring the 1. We'll discuss match a little later on in this presentation. This is a reimbursable grant. If you demonstrate that you need funding upfront to get your project started, they will definitely take that into consideration, but this is a reimbursable grant. The deadline is, the application is open now. You can submit the application now, but the deadline for the application is April 15th. And they have admonished us to not wait until April 15th to submit the grant, because you may be at the bottom of the stack on April 15th and they're at the top. And if they get through, applications and they commit funding, they will not be able to reach your application. And also turn your application in as early as you can, because if there are questions that they have on the grant, they can get those questions answered and it's still in time for the deadline. So but if they have questions about your grant and it's April 15th and it's not complete, they'll move on and you may not be able to partake in this funding opportunity. So please, please, please do not wait until April 15th to apply. There are still plenty of opportunities for you to apply right now. And we have spring break next week. Maybe that will alleviate people of some time, and so they can spend more time on their application. So it would be wise to turn it in. I would say a good date to turn it in would be April 1st in order to get in sooner. Okay. So we want to talk about, what is this application? Okay. This is the information that's covered. The grant, this covers promotional materials for you to promote your event. They will cover rented space or equipment that you need. Let's say you want to rent equipment for some bounce houses or something like that. That is something that's covered underneath the grant. And rented venue space up to $300 is covered. Also, transportation costs are covered, but let me explain about the transportation cost. Let's say you want to transport people to health clinics to get their COVID-19 vaccine, and you feel like we have enough volunteers that can drive people in the vehicles. That personal private vehicles, that won't be covered. If you want to rent a bus or some type of other van or something to take your targeted audience to this COVID-19 testing or COVID-19 vaccine, that would be covered, but not in a personal vehicle. Okay. Project materials, let's say you're doing a cleanup, neighborhood cleanup, they will cover project materials such as paint or trash bags, gloves, water, stuff like that. Food for volunteers and participants within reason, of course. Make sure those food costs are reasonable. Also, Transportation costs. We talked about that. Not like a bus, not private vehicles. They would love to support inclusive projects. So projects that are for everyone, every race, religion, age, LGBTQ community. Inclusive projects are very much welcomed. And also ongoing list sponsored projects. So let's say you have a project that was previously sponsored by LIST. It can be considered for additional funding if the newly submitted project that you want to submit is a continuation. It's showing progress. So they don't want to fund the same thing that they did the last time. If you're showing progress with your original project, that is, you could still be considered for additional funds. What is not covered is electronics and software. That will not be covered underneath this grant. Electronics like smart boards and TVs and cameras and computers, unless it is for emergency response related applications. Okay. Staff time. If you have staff that's a part of your project, that should be counted as match. One-time events without further engagement is not covered. Events for small groups of people, less than 100 people, they need to make sure that we maximize attendance. So they would love to support projects that are more than 100 people, and not so much people that, not so much for events that are less than 100 people. Projects that have already been funded by LISC is not covered. Small business assistance. We know we have a lot of entrepreneurs out here trying to start up their business. This would not be the grant for you. And projects that require religious obligations or participation. If it's only for, people of a certain faith or a certain church, it has to be inclusive and welcoming to everybody. So if it's just limited to a certain church or certain religious obligations, that would not be covered under this grant. And if anyone has questions, feel free to ask questions if you want to raise your hand, if you have that feature, or if you just want to ask a question, please feel free to do so. I don't have to talk to you all night. I know people have a lot of questions. So on your screen here, there's 3 parts to this LISC Go Neighborhood application. You have your project description, of course, your budget, and you also need letters of support. So you have about 8 questions on the application. And of course, the first question is, what is your project? Your project description should be 200 words or less. Should be clear and concise statements that clearly show what your project is about. You don't have to use so many words. I know I'm very wordy and I have to cut down a lot of words when I say things. So make sure your response is clear and concise and understandable. What will this project address? Why are you doing this? What do you have to show to say why this is a need in your community? Who are you targeting as well? That's part of the questions that you need to answer. Also, who will you help? And what's your estimate, your number of volunteers that will help you reach your audience? Do you have stakeholder support? This is so important. You need support from groups and organizations to help further your application and also make for a better event, right? We all have resources and we all pull from each other. And so make sure you have reached out to your appropriate groups and organizations so that they can help support your application and make your event that much better. How many participants you also have to address. How many people you think will attend your event and how you're targeting them. Of course, you need to provide a timeline. When are your events? Because the grant, all the activities for the grant must be completed in November. So what is your full timeline of your events? You may have more than one event in this application that you want supported by LISC. So make sure you have a detailed timeline. Your project impact. Who will this project benefit? What are the results that you see from this coming forward? We want to make our community healthier. We want to disseminate information about heart health. And the type of people that we want to interact with could be people who are disabled, that already have, heart issues, that those types of information. And what's the long-term impact? If this is like a series of workshops that you're going to do, help us with starting workshops, and we will continue our workshops on, the results that you will have from this, that makes a very strong application. And your next steps after the project is completed. So now what? I was fortunate to receive a LISC grant a couple of years ago to complete a fair housing comic book for kids. I wanted kids to know about their fair housing rights. I really felt like if we teach kids about their fair housing rights, we are rearing them to be informed adults that would be less likely to discriminate themselves. So I completed my comic book, and now the next part of my project is to do workshops, right? And educate people about the fair housing rights using the comic book as curriculum. So that's a future initiative of mine that was started from the initial LISC grant that I did receive. So if I received a LISC grant and I could write one, I know you can, and I know it's just as feasible and just as possible for you to do it as well. So those are the type of projects, descriptions, questions that's going to be on the application. Your budget needs to include two things. It needs to include grant expenses and your match calculation. So there's already a template in the application, so you don't have to reinvent this wheel. You don't have to create a spreadsheet yourself. LISC already has the template in the application for you, and they want you to use their budget template. So your grant expenses must be listed by line items and include funding that's being requested from LISC and the expenses that will be covered using other funds. So let's say, you're going to rent a bounce house, and of course this can't exceed $5,000. You're going to rent a bounce house, you would put, the rental, that's part of your expense for this project. Also, you have to include your match calculation, okay? So volunteers for LISC, they feel they have assessed the value of the volunteer at $25.47. And that's a lot. I can just share with you, when I did a lot of HUD grants, non-skilled volunteers, they were only paying them $10, $15 an hour. So this is very generous value for volunteers that LISC has established. So you will use that for your match calculation, and also any in-kind resources that you receive. So let's say you got a donation from Walmart for food and water for your event. That's your in-kind. You will count the value of that contribution in with your match. So if you want the full $5,000 for the grant, you would have to prove up $10,000 in match in order to get that. And that includes, of course, your volunteer time, and not only for the day of the event, but also the planning. Don't forget that it's so important. How did you plan this event to begin with? We know that takes a lot of hours and a lot of effort and a lot of people to do that. So make sure you include the planning of this event and the people you're reaching out to, and just the overall time that you spent on planning the event. Make sure you include that as your match calculation, because that's a lot of money. You don't want to shortchange yourself in that area. Please keep in mind that LISC cannot make grant payments to individuals, okay? Grant payments must go to an organization or the business listed on the application, or to the organization that serves as the fiscal sponsor for the grant. So let me explain. I told you earlier that I was awarded a grant with LISC, but I'm an individual. I don't have a business. So I contacted a fiscal sponsor, a nonprofit organization, World Youth Foundation. They were my fiscal sponsor. So LISC was able to send them the funds. And then as I turned into my reporting, I was reimbursed by World Youth Foundation through the funds that they received from LISC, okay? So it can't go to you and me, Sasha Marshall, individually. It has to go to an organization that's listed. If you have an organization, that's great. You don't have to be a 501c3. but it must go to an organization or a business listed on the application. They cannot make grant payments to individuals. I just wanted to make sure I explained that thoroughly. Okay, earlier I talked about letters of support, which is required for this grant. So to be considered for this LIST grant, your application has to be supported by a neighborhood group or another organization like a super neighborhood club, civic club, or a complete community neighborhood or NST for our complete communities. Letters should not come from city council members, businesses in the area, individuals, or schools that will directly benefit from the project. So let's say you're doing something at Lockwood Elementary School. Like, okay, I'm having a workshop for the kids at Lockwood Elementary School to teach them about their fair housing rights. And so I'm going to give the students incentives too, to attend the workshop. I can't get a letter from the principal because it's directly benefiting that school. But let's say I get a letter from Greater Houston Fair Housing Center because they support me in educating these kids about fair housing. That would work. Okay. So make sure, and it strengthens your application to show that you have like grassroots team underneath you supporting your project. Okay. So this is where the money resides. I want y'all to look at this scoring criteria. This is LIST scoring criteria. When they review your application, they're going to ask themselves this question. And these are the topics for the scoring criteria. We can start with unification. Okay. The questions, when they look at your application to score it, they're going to be looking if the project brings residents together. Okay. Does the project offer potential to develop new relationships between people and organizations in the neighborhood? And are there plans to keep participants involved in neighborhood work? Also, they're going to look at sustainability when they review your application. Does this project tie into other efforts or other organizations in the neighborhood, right? To make for a sustainable impact. Will residents and community organizations be able to sustain this project after the completion of the grant term? Logistics and budget. They're going to be looking for your application to see if you have a sufficient amount of volunteer and in-kind matches, to see if all of your required forms are submitted and if your application is complete, and if the project can be executed remotely. That's something that they will score you on. Neighborhood support, we've talked about that. Do the letters meet the criteria of the letters of support? You need at least 2 letters of support. And do the letters come from grassroots or neighborhood organizations? They're going to assess your application to see the impact. Does this project have the impact? Will it impact more than 100 people? Does this project have approval for implementation and permission from the facility or the site where the project will take place? So that's what they are looking for. I have in this set in the middle, Go Neighborhood, because this is the LIST grant is for the Go Neighborhood initiatives that they have. And it's okay if your community is not a Go Neighborhood, your application will still be considered. Okay. So does anyone have any questions so far before I start talking about the next funding opportunity that we have tonight? I just want to pause for questions about the LIST grant so far. I don't see any hands raised, but if anybody wants to ask questions, please do so now.
Someone's typing in the chat, Sasha, so as soon as they come up, I'll let you know. Can I speak with you directly concerning this grant opportunity? This is from Shanavia Crane.
Hi, Ms. Crane. So I want to reiterate that this is a Houston LIST grant. This is not a city grant. If you put your email address in the chat. I'll be more than happy to link you. I can see you my slides. I see that you're saying you missed the first portion of this presentation. I can send you the slides. And also, please put in your email address in the chat, and I will connect you with Patty Carr. She works for LISC. So I thank you. I see your email. Thank you for that. And I'll email you shortly with the slides and with Patty Carr's information, and you can ask her specific questions about the Houston Go Neighborhoods LISC grant. My pleasure, Ms. Crane. See, we have Crystal is also typing into the chat.
Yes. She said, I missed the beginning of your presentation. Sorry for being late. Please email me a copy of your presentation. And she listed her email information in the chat.
I will do so. No problem, Dee. Do we have any other questions? Okay, well, this is a quiet group. Hearing none, we will move on to the next grant opportunity that we'll talk about tonight. Another funding opportunity is the Healthy Outdoor Communities. And so you hear outdoor, that's exactly what they want. They want projects that are outdoor. Okay. It must meet the top 5 thrive, and that is parks and outdoor spaces. So also must meet education. So you have to teach somebody something. Of course, look, feel, and safety is a top 5 thrive criteria. Art and cultural expression, or what's sold and how it's promoted. So it has to be an outdoor project, and it has to meet one of those 5 criteria. Okay. This is a smaller grant. This grant is for individuals. The LISC grant was not for individuals. This one is for individuals or local organizations, but the threshold for this grant amount is $1,000. The deadline is really quick. It is in 8 days. The deadline is March 19th to turn in, but I heard that this is a very, very simple application process. And so this project must be completed by July 2021. You can start April or May, but it must be completed by July 2021. That's the deadline for this grant, for the grant project. Okay, so this is their round 2 small project funding opportunity that they have for healthy outdoor communities. And so examples for this would be like if you wanted to do an outdoor classroom, public art, garden planter boxes, a student walking tour, things like that, that encourage children, youth, and or families to spend time outdoors in some way. And of course, like we said, they must tie into this grant opportunity is only for Third Ward and Acres Home communities. So I know that we have people on the call that are outside of those areas. If you could bring your talents and your efforts to Third Ward and Acres Home, you could take advantage of this opportunity. I know we all have resources and connections in other areas. So if you know someone in Third Ward or Acres Home that would benefit from this, you can more than happy to share this opportunity with them, but do so quickly because the grant deadline is March 19th. And I did put the link to the application for this in the chat. I heard this is a very easy application process. So going on to this next slide, the application could be 1 page, it could be 5 pages, it could be a proposal, it could be a letter, or you could actually fill out the application that they have for you. Okay. They will assess the proposal. I think they have about four grants that they can disperse. Winners, not winners, but awardees will be announced by April 12th. And you must attend a funding orientation in mid-April. And as I stated before, the project must be completed by July 31st. And you have to submit your evaluation report about your project by August 15th. So that is the rundown for that grant. It's very easy. I heard that it's probably much easier to get to apply for this than the previous grant opportunity. We want you to take advantage of both opportunities. So I've talked a lot. I know we have some callers on the line. We would love to hear from you. We would love to hear about potential projects that you may submit to either of these funding opportunities. So we will open the floor now for people to chime in. And you've heard what the criteria is and what these funders would like to see. We want to hear about your projects and what do you want to do and who it will benefit and where do you want to do it? So I'll open the floor now. Sharing is caring. Don't all rush at once. We can all talk. And this would be a good time to, let people know if some people came late. So let people know who you are on the call. There's always an opportunity to network and collaborate.
Hi, this is Tremaine again. I know you guys did something similar with Fort Bend Super Neighborhoods a couple days ago, but do you have something where I can send to kind of some of the people in leadership over there? Because this is a good opportunity for them. There's a lot of discussion about opening, especially Black businesses or minority businesses, and this is something that can really help the community. So is there something like you can send to us that we can forward over to them? Or is there anyone from Fort Bend Super Neighborhoods?
I don't think we have anyone from Fort Bend Super Neighborhood on the call, but we do have the lead planner for Fort Bend Houston. Tanya Sawyer is on the call, and maybe she can.
Yes, hi, Tanya.
Hi, Ms. Tremaine.
Hi, yes, I attended the meeting, but I couldn't hear anything. I think it was mid-Tuesday. But yeah. I think this is a great program because we were just talking about this last month.
Yes.
Yes.
So
but, I'm sorry.
What are you asking for specifically? You want the information for the application?
Yes, bullet points that we can share. I thought Regina or Donna would be on the meeting, but just kind of some bullet points that we can share because that's, one of the discussions we're really talking about. And we're trying to include some of the pastors also to help. But I think if it's something I can relate to them in bullet points, that'll be a little bit better.
Okay, so are you talking about this grant that Sasha's discussing right now, or okay.
And hi, this is Lynn. I just wanted to mention, Sasha just mentioned a few minutes ago that she could email out her presentation from tonight. And in that presentation, it will have the address to where the application is, all of the information that Sasha's been going over this afternoon. And also just wanted to let you know, we have been trying to spread the word about this grant. We've included it in our newsletter. We mentioned it in our meetings. And so that, thank you for wanting to help get the word out for this LIST grant. So, and Sasha, maybe if for those that would like the presentation that Sasha's going to share, Sasha, can you put your email address in the chat?
Sure, and anyone feel free to email me.
And Sasha can send you the presentation that has a note on it.
I definitely can.
Thanks, Lynn. That
Okay,
was going to be my
thank you.
recommendation for Sasha just to send the presentation so Tremaine can forward it to everyone.
Hey, Sasha, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Debbie Allen. I belong to an organization called Houston Responds, and we're the organization that responded primarily in Northeast Houston during Hurricane Harvey and the recent freeze. What an organization that has volunteers, because we're volunteer based, would it be able to qualify for any of your projects?
These aren't my projects. This is a Houston List grant.
I'm sorry.
Yes, and depending on your proposal, I'm totally aware of Houston Responds. I think we might have met.
Thank you.
I was outside in Harvey in that one neighborhood. Oh my gosh, it was the neighborhood Lakewood.
Yes.
Yes, and it got hit
Yes.
hard.
Very
and I think I
hard.
remember meeting you out there. You were helping with the crisis cleanup.
Absolutely. Yes.
Uh-huh. And oh my gosh, I still remember how that mold smelled in the street.
Oh,
Whew,
yes.
that was
Yes.
bad. So
Yes.
they would love to see projects that help people recover from disaster recovery.
Okay.
And, the pandemic too. So that's right up the alley, Miss Allen.
Well, thank you very much. And we're looking forward to working closely with you.
Oh yes, and keep up. Y'all do great work. Thank you. It's good to chat with you again.
Thank you, and you as well.
Do we have any other questions? Does anybody want to talk about projects that you're thinking of applying for these grant funds to complete? Any action plan projects or any other community projects that you would like to share? Don't be shy.
Yes, hi. My name is Trina. On here, I know it says Shanavia Crane, but that's actually my daughter. And I don't know how to get her name off, so we're just gonna roll with it as it is. But I'm the I'm the founder of Gustavia Pearl's Women's Outreach, and we do a lot of work in the Fifth Ward area. And so currently, we've been doing a lot of outreach efforts. We have our food pantry, and we also have our clothes pantry that we kind of opened up the building to anyone that are in need of clothes, Pampers, baby food, household items, food. My organization, we're not connected directly to like the Houston Food Bank or Target Hunger, anything like that. So we just kind of dip into our own account and we purchase food for the community. So what we do is we go out on Liberty Road, Collinsworth, which is in the Fifth Ward area, and we serve over 200 people. And we provide the food for them, hot plates, and then also the water and whatever snacks that we give to the kids that are out there. So we're just kind of looking to connect with more organizations that may possibly be doing the same thing or just can kind of help us out or we can help them out. But this area is new to us because our actual goal was to help and assist women and young girls that have been affected by domestic and sexual abuse. So we've kind of moved out from that realm into the community since a little bit before the pandemic started. And so this is kind of new to us. And the grant that I heard you speak about, we got on like 20 minutes afterwards, would be, I want to know a little bit more about it because it sounds like something that would benefit my organization.
No worries. I think you put your information in the chat.
Yes, I did. I put the email there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll be more than happy to connect you with Houston List so that you can ask, them your specific questions. They weren't able to join us tonight.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. No, thank you for joining us. We have any other comments from anyone else? Want to talk about your project or what you do? Any further questions about the grant opportunities that we mentioned, either the Houston LISC grant or the Healthy Outdoor Communities grant? We had some questions from we had a previous grant writing workshop in February, and these were some of the questions that we were asked. So I can give some answers now. The first question is that we heard from the last meeting was, well, what is the turnaround time that we can expect to receive a response to our Go Houston LISC neighborhood application? So they said that the answer was they will acknowledge the grant application within a few days of receiving it. And so their grant funding decisions are made by committee. They use the scoring criteria as an evaluation guide. They don't make the funding decisions immediately, but you should know something by the end of April. When is the funding reimbursed? That was a question from the previous workshop that we had. If you need, these grants are reimbursable. Funding is sent at the completion of the project, but you can make arrangements if you demonstrate that you need a partial grant payment to get the project started. They may be able to accommodate you on that. So just ask. Someone asked during the last time we met, is the grant preference for new ideas only? What about for projects that are ongoing but could use the funding? No, it's not for new projects at all, or new ideas. Like we said, it could be a continuation of projects that you're already doing. And like say that you already do workshops and you need funding to fund 5 more workshops. That would be fine. If an organization has more than one event that has varying budgets, can we submit an individual and separate applications? Let me make sure I get this answer correct. You can. You may want to call Houston LISC and run some details with them first, just to make sure. But yes, you can submit it, individual applications for different budgets. And so someone says, I'm working on a project which I know is outside of the Complete Communities area. May I still apply? Of course you can. This is not a Complete Communities only grant. This is a Houston LISC grant. And so, yes, you can for any area within their service area. You can check on their website what their service area is. But of course, they're available to all neighborhoods in the greater Houston area, but there is a slight preference for projects that are within their Go neighborhoods designated areas. So those are some of the questions that we had for the first workshop. If you have a question, you can put it in the chat and I can go back to LISC and ask them or connect you, of course, with Patty Carr. She's a lovely person. I'd love for you to meet her. So, do we have any last questions? We're a little bit over time. If we don't have any more questions, we can adjourn, but last call for questions or comments.
I just want to say thank you for providing us with this opportunity, Sasha. A lot of us needed to hear this because a lot of people are intimidated by the grant process, and to know that we have someone that we can, like a go-to person to talk to, that makes a big difference. Because a lot of times when they start filling out the application, they run into a brick wall, if you will, and some people just let it pass, you know. So if this is going to be a way that many organizations in Houston can take advantage of this, especially after the freeze and after COVID, to help them to rebuild. This is awesome. And I just wanted to publicly say thank you.
Hey, thanks. We aim to please, Ms. Allen. We truly, we felt like there are so many grant opportunities, and everyone says, "Oh, it's great," but what could we do to get people to actually submit the application?
Yes.
So there's a
Yes.
disconnect between hearing about an opportunity and submitting for the opportunity. So we just wanted to do our part. This is not our grant, but any promotion of a grant that can help all of our communities is just fine with us. This is what we do. This is why we are here. So
Right. I think where a lot of people or organizations get bogged down, they think they have to hire a grant writer, and most grant writers want their fee for their service up front, which many of the organizations which are already struggling because they're nonprofits are unable to meet that requirement. So a lot of people think it's really difficult to write a grant, and it's really not. Mostly, you writing the grant, you tell your story. It's your story. Nobody can really write it the way you can, and it doesn't have to be. I don't want to say top quality, but you understand what I'm saying. You just tell exactly from the heart what you need, what you do, how you do it, when the time frame that you need it.
And I think, learning how to complete simple applications to get grant funding is also, a confidence booster. Because when I received the $5,000 that I got from my comic book, I couldn't believe it at the same time. And I know it's just $5,000, but it is a start. And I felt like if I can get a $5,000 grant, I can get a $50,000 grant one day. And I can get a $500,000 grant.
Amen.
So right, we just build on. So this is a good start to get the grant writing practice and build momentum as well.
Absolutely. Are you going to do a follow-up to this workshop? Because a lot of us found out about your workshop fairly late. I think I got a text message from City Council Member Tarsha Jackson's office, which is great, by the way. I love what she's doing. Is there a follow-up workshop to this so that we can get the word out and market it a little better?
Well, that is not something that we planned. This is our second workshop we had.
Okay.
But if we could demonstrate that there is a need for an additional workshop, maybe we could make it happen.
Absolutely, there's a need. I work with a group of about 40 different churches in the northeast side of town, and there are a lot of pastors that are struggling with they have a lot of food drives, where they provide the community with food and water, and their services based upon their volunteers. So I don't know if that's something that the pastors can get into with Houston List. You guide me. You let me know. Are churches able to take advantage of these grant opportunities?
Yes. I know you said that you had came in a little late.
Yes.
But we did. It's just fine if it's a church. It can't be limited to the church.
Absolutely.
Right. Or it can't be limited to like the religion or limited to the church.
Right.
Or the church members. It has to be inclusive.
Right. So if I may ask at this time, if you can find out if you can do a follow-up workshop, that way I can notify a lot of the pastors, because I only have one pastor on the call at this time, and that's Pastor Irvin Clark with Houston Responds. So if it's at all possible, we would really appreciate it if there's any way you could be possible to do a follow-up workshop to let me know so that I can blast it to those churches. Thank you.
So will the church have any meetings, regularly scheduled meetings? I don't mind, presenting at your meeting.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Do another workshop.
Yes, because the pastor also has a radio talk show. We would love for you to come on. That way we could reach a wider audience.
We can talk offline.
Okay. All right. I'll put my number.
You put your email address in the chat?
Yes, I did.
Okay. I will follow up with you.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
If we don't have any more questions, we are over. I'm kind of glad in a way, because that means y'all had questions. But if there are no more questions, we can adjourn for the evening.
And thank you so much again. Thank you. This is a lot of information.
No problem, Ms. Tremaine. Y'all have a good evening.
Good night, everyone.